built a 1380 engine for it, so overboard 1275 mini engine, and that made nearly 100 horsepower.
Right.
But every time I put my foot down in it, I was terrified something would break.
I thought it was going to be a bit more involved than that.
I didn't have loads of money to spend, so I looked around and thought, well, these engines are so cheap, I'll get one and see.
It seems daft, but it almost looks factory, doesn't it? That really is quite something.
Yeah.
Right, what looks like a very early 1960s Mini, completely standard looking, and it's nothing of the sort, is it, Gary?
No, it's completely different under the skin.
So what sort of horsepower would this have had as an 850cc Mini?
Well, this was originally a 1 litre, and I think they're about 32 or 34 horsepower, something
The 850
like that.
made even less than 30 horse.
Yeah, I think so.
Was it 29?
High 20s, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So what has it got now? How many horsepower?
Around 180 to 190, something around that mark.
And the remarkable thing is, there's obviously a much bigger engine in there, but this is a standard shell, isn't it? It's not been lengthened at all.
No, yeah, it's all standard proportions. There's a lot of modifications underneath, but essentially, the silhouette is not changed. There's no lengthened front, no widened track or anything like that.
So what is the engine then?
Rover K series,
Right.
which are well known for their head gasket issues, but they're actually a fantastic little engine used in.
It was developed in conjunction with Honda, wasn't it?
No, actually,
I thought it was.
No, there was a twin cam that was developed with Honda, but it was an earlier engine. No, the K series was all Rovers.
Right.
And this particular one is the VVC engine, which is variable valve control. So like Honda had the VTEC.
So what capacity is that then?
This is a 1.8.
Wow.
Yeah, and they came in 1.4, 1.6 and 1.8. With the variable valve control, it's Rover's version of VTEC, although it works completely differently, whereas VTEC switches cam profiles at a certain RPM.
Yeah.
The VVC changes the cam duration from idle all the way to the red line.
So it's a progressive change.
It's very progressive. There's no hard step or anything like that. It's just, so you get more torque lower down and then all the power at the top end as well.
And what does it red line at?
7,400.
Right.
Yeah, you can take them higher, but the pistons are about on their limit at that rev range, because the piston speeds in these engines are really, really high. So
right.
Yeah, they tend to break up at any higher than that.
And what would this engine have been in? Like a Lotus Elise kind of?
Yeah, Lotus Series 1 Lotus Elise, MGFs, MG ZRs,
right.
Those sort of cars, yeah.
And is that the gearbox you've used as well? Is that?
The gearbox is a bit of a Frankenstein. It's an MGF gearbox, 5-speed, with the final drive ratio out of a Land Rover Series 1 Freelander diesel.
Why?
To get the higher ratios for the 10-inch
Oh,
wheels.
for the tiny little wheels.
Yeah, because otherwise it's screaming away on the motorway. But this will cruise quite happily at 70, 80 miles an hour, without revving itself to bits.
Which is more than can be said for an 850 or 1000cc
Yes,
Mini.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've driven this all around the north coast of Scotland, and I drove 500 miles, only stopping for fuel, and it was, I didn't even feel tired at the end of it, because you put it in fifth and it just cruises all day long. Yeah.
So what have you had to do under here to get this engine in there? Because it's a much more bulky engine than the original tiny little A series, isn't it?
Yeah, so pretty much everything has to be redesigned under the bonnet. So the subframe is heavily modified, and there are some, or there used to be some available. They're getting hard to find now. But I decided to build my own frame because then I could do it exactly how I wanted to do it. I've had to move the steering back slightly. I've had to move all the braking system around, the pedal box and so on.
I thought there was going to be a bit more involved than that.
There's 6 bolts that hold it on, and then just a wiring loop for the lights. But apart from that, the bulkhead is standard.
Is it?
Yeah. The front wings, front panel are 95% standard. You know, just slight reliefs, just clear a few things, but otherwise fairly standard. It's just a case of making everything on the engine a bit more compact. So things like, you need a tiny alternator and you need to make the exhaust manifold tighter to the block and lots of little bits like that.
So you made all those stainless parts?
Yeah. A bit of aluminium back plates, aluminium rear suspension arms, all adjustable.
So what is the exhaust manifold? Is it a standard part you modified, or did you make one?
It's an aftermarket stainless steel Elise parts one. So it was for a Lotus Elise,
right.
And I took this shiny, nice manifold and
chopped it up
and re-welded it until it fitted where I wanted it to fit.
This is a modified Elise. Was it Elise parts manifold?
Yes.
And then what happens to the rest of it? Is this all? And then it's all custom
made, yeah. You can make the standard one's not a bad manifold, and you can make them fit, but I thought, well, if I'm going to the effort of chopping about a manifold, I might as well start with a nice stainless steel one and end up with something that looks good as well.
That radiator is bigger than I realised.
Yeah, a lot of it's sort of hidden behind the headlight and the wing. It disappears right under the arch.
And it's from a Hyundai Accent?
Yeah.
And what made you decide to put this engine in this car? I mean, have you got a thing with minis, or?
I've owned this car for over 20 years.
Have you?
Yeah. When I first bought it, I restored it with, I built a 1380 engine for it. So overboard 1275 mini engine. That was okay. I mean, that made nearly 100 horsepower.
Right.
But every time I put my foot down in it, I was terrified something would break, like something in the gearbox or whatever. It was, when you start tuning mini engines to sort of around that level and above, you're really on the edge of what the components can handle, and then you just follow a path of replacing everything that breaks until you get to the end of the sort of the chain.
Yeah.
You can end up spending a huge amount of money, whereas I want the power, I want reliability more than anything.
Yeah.
But I didn't have loads of money to spend, so I looked around and thought, well, these engines are so cheap. Yeah. People are practically giving them away at the time. Well, I'll get one and see. And I'm not the first person to do this engine conversion. I can't claim that. It's been done before many times. And there's an online forum, the 16 Valve Mini Club, that this whole build is documented on there, and there's loads of others. So there's information out there to sort of follow what other people have done. I mean, people have put Vauxhall engines in and Ford engines and all sorts. But the K series, it's pretty much one of the lightest 4-cylinder car engines you can get. So it doesn't affect the handling. It makes really good power for its weight and its size. Yeah. It's dirt cheap. And if I blow it up, I just go to the scrapyard and get another one. So it's not the end of the world. It's not like blowing up a £10,000 engine. You're blowing up a 300 quid engine, you know. So. Yeah.
So have you rebuilt this engine, or have you just put it in?
I've lightly rebuilt it, as in that I've done head gasket and shim the liners and all that sort of thing, just to make sure that's all done properly.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of work in the engine, so the head, I've ported the head, I've fitted Piper exhaust cam, and a few other little bits like that, light and flywheel, those sort of things, yeah.
Has it been on the rolling though?
No, it hasn't. I've never got round to it because it runs on the standard Rover ECU.
Well, that's what I was coming to you. This is the other trick you've pulled off. You've managed to run all this without an aftermarket ECU. How have you done that?
Yeah, well, that's another great thing about these, is that the ECUs come from a period where they were OBD2, so you can plug a scanner into them and read them.
Yeah.
But they're still basic enough that they only run off 3 or 4 sensors on the engine, and to splice the Rover or MG wiring loom into the mini loom, it's only sort of 6 or 7 wires to get you running.
Right.
So it's quite easy to run it on the standard ECU, and now there's actually software available that means I can actually remap it and change parameters in there and turn off things like the immobiliser.
Right.
So it's almost as easy to adapt as an aftermarket ECU.
And in many ways better, because it's got all the cold start stuff's already done.
Yeah, all that's done. So yeah, there's a lot of really clever sort of background programming in these ECUs that you don't even know is there.
Yeah.
And to replicate that on an aftermarket ECU would take hours and hours and hours of fiddling and a lot of money, to get there. And I thought, well, it's not that modified an engine from standard that it's worthwhile going down that route. I don't think the gains would be worthwhile, certainly because it's not a race car, it's just a fun car.
Yeah.
And it just runs perfectly on it, so yeah.
Now you just opened this workshop, Legacy Workshop, as your t-shirt proudly tells us. So presumably you could build one of these for someone else.
Yeah, if someone wants something like this building, that's exactly what I can do down here. I'll do everything from a service through to full restorations, resto mods, not just minis, anything really. So yeah, if someone came down and said, yeah, I want exactly what you've got in there, yeah, that's definitely something I can do, yeah.
Right, well, let's show them how good it is and take it out on the road then.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
What's it like on fuel?
Really good, like just normal driving, you can get 50 to the gallon.
Really?
Yeah.
That's... do that reliably.
Yeah. Yeah, I track days and all sorts.
Oh, you track day, do you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've done quite a few track days. Sandspod, go track racing at Sandspod.
Do you?
Yeah.
So if you're going to break it, that's where you break it.
Well, that's it.
What's the name of your workshop, Gary? It's on your t-shirt.
Legacy Workshop.
And you're in Thrapston in Northamptonshire.
That's it, yeah.
I'll put the link to your website in the description of the video so that anyone can get in touch with you.
That's it, yeah. We're on Facebook and Instagram. And we have regular meets, classic car meets, interesting cars down at the workshop. So keep an eye on the Facebook page or the website, and I'll put the dates up on there.
And if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and share, and please consider supporting Practical Performance Car on Patreon. It's only a £5 a month and it'll help us keep going. Thanks very much. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
See you again.
Yeah, cheers.
Soon, I think.
Yeah.
Cheers. So it's got loads of chassis underneath. What's the engine?
It's got a XE Vauxhall red top.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a 2 litre 16 valve running on 45s on this.